as was recalled this morning during the opening remarks by both the CS and the President, the EU as a common market is the largest destination for Kenyan exports. And the new provisions for sustainable trade and mutual accountability, which are currently being discussed as part of the ongoing economic partnership agreement negotiation, may help, we hope, to create an even more conducive environment for innovation and growth. The European Union is a strong supporter of the ambitious Kenya agriculture sector transformation growth strategy, and we are keen on working together with our Kenyan partners to boost technological advancements, build capacity, intensify market linkages, and increase youth participation in the field. The Kenyan agro-processing sector is on an upward trajectory with immense potential for further growth. And it's fair to say that the new Kenyan administration has advocated for more industrial efforts to create a vibrant agro-processing industry to enhance the value chain, create jobs, increase income, and make sure Kenya's export levels maximize their potential. This is what we want to discuss today with our panelists who will share their journey towards realizing Kenya's full agricultural potential, supporting food security, and building mutually beneficial two-way trade and investment. So let's focus on opportunities and a win-win partnership for this session. But before we open the panel, I would like to warmly welcome and introduce our guest of honor, Dr. Juma Mukwana, Principal Secretary for the State Department for Industry in the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. And Dr. Juma Mukwana, if you are okay to give us a few opening remarks before we start the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As she has introduced me, Juma Mukwana is my name, the PS for Principal Secretary for Industry. Let me take this opportunity to, first of all, to welcome you to Kenya, those of you who are here maybe for the first time or visiting for a short while. We really appreciate your coming. We appreciate the partnership that we are developing. And if you have a few more days, there's Masai Mara. And if the Masai Mara is too far, there is Nairobi National Park. So you have a park right here in the city. So thank you so much. Let me just say a few things. So my State Department is within the Ministry of Investment, Promotion, Trade and Industry, and I think you already met my CS, Moses Kuria. And when you think about agro-processing in Kenya, it is the oldest thing that we have been doing. But we've done it for so long, and we've also learned many, many lessons. When I was growing up as a young man, I'm an agriculturalist, a veterinarian myself, we had all these industries running. The way it was set up was for milk, we had KCC, the Kenya Cooperative Creameries. For pyrethrum, we had something. For maize, we had National Cereals and Produce Board, and we also had milling companies. Unga is one of the oldest companies here. So coffee, tea, and all this. And the way it was built was that each value chain will then you produce the raw materials, the farmers are organized around cooperative societies, and then there's a processing, and the processing then either local consumption or export. And I think things fell apart around 1990s, and you all know why, with the structural adjustment programs from, again, World Bank. I'm not blaming anyone. And what happened then is they opened up these things, and we opened up for the private sector that actually did not exist. So competition, private sector, it was not there. For lack of a better word, we only introduced a new dimension into our business, and it was called cartels and middlemen. So we ended up with more middlemen and more people controlling commodities that were previously controlled by cooperative societies. I come from a region where sugarcane farming is a major one. So we had major sugar factories, Nzoia, Mumias, Chemiril, so we had well over 10 sugar factories. And with that pressure of internal, as we talk now, one of the biggest opportunities that you can start with, if you can grab and run, is a collapsed sugar factory. That you can do. We have many of them, and the government has put them on, most of them on sale. So we have, and we're just producing sugar, and that's it. So when we have looked at our industrialization, the model we had, most of these factories were government-owned, and that is the first problem. And as you know, government sometimes, we are good at creating an environment. We may not be very good at running factories. So here we were running them, and we can see the effect. So we have a lot of issues around there. Coming to where we are now, we are in a space where we have a very transformative government. My cabinet secretary, my president, willing to do things differently, to think out of the box. Kenya has a lot of potential. Everybody who looks at Kenya says we are punching below our weight. We are a regional hub. We have one of the most educated workforces in the region. We have a port at Mombasa, fairly good connectivity in terms of roads and so on, and openings within the regional market, within the East Africa and East and Central Africa, and currently thinking about the African continental free trade area. More specifically, in the area of agro-processing, we are now focused, because we really can't do everything. We are focusing on a number of places. One is textile. When I grew up, we had Kenyan shops where we used to buy our fabric and our clothes. And so we had Deacons and we had all this. And then what happened? Open up the market. Now, I don't know if many of you know what mitumba is. Used clothes. But we have a big opportunity here. Why? Because we have the AGOA. Kenya has been exporting to the US, duty-free, quota-free. Currently, we have about 29 companies in our export promotion zone. Actually, Kenya is the biggest supplier to the US and AGOA of textiles, produced under duty-free conditions here in Nairobi, just outside of Nairobi. So we have 29 companies. But we also have a government institution called Rivertex that is based in Eldoret, that is able to take cotton and turn it into fabric for people to use. And over the last 5 years, we have invested nearly $7 million. So it's actually, if you had time to, and you're interested in textile, we have the biggest, the most sophisticated factory within East and Central Africa in Eldoret. And we have a lot of interest, people coming in, different brands, Buma and others, Nike. And we think that the area of textile, and now we've just started the process of promoting cotton production. A lot of the fabric that's being used is being imported, but that is an area that we are now promoting. And we think if the demand side can function, then the supply side will very, very quickly follow. The other area is leather. We have one of the biggest factories here, Bata. Kenya has the third largest herd of livestock in Africa, but we are only processing about 3% of the hides and skins that we produce here. We have government tanneries, we have private sector tanneries. That space of value addition in leather is a big opportunity that we think that we are sitting on. So we have a lot of livestock, and of course together with it, apart from just the leather, of course the meat and other meat products. One of our oldest companies here, Farmers Choice, and we have the government-run Kenya Meat Commission. And this can add a lot of value. And we have smaller meat processing plants that one can also look at. So that I move faster, in the area of agro-processing, so we have other areas, tea, coffee, which you all know. We export a lot of this as raw materials. The conversation that we are now having is we want more processing of these products so that we are not just selling raw materials. The farmers feel shortchanged. We used to be a leading exporter of coffee, but because of the conditions, the prices and everything else, and the escalating costs of production, selling raw coffee does not pay back the farmers very well. And so we would like to see more agro-processing here, and if the value and the prices can go up, they will grow a lot more, both in central Kenya, in western, in Nyanza. We have a lot of potential for coffee. Tea, you already know, we are doing extremely well on tea by Rethram around Nakuru. So by Rethram, we are growing a lot more until again issues came up. Macadamia, avocado, and we have special economic zones where you can produce with tax incentives, tax holidays for 6 years. So we have ABZs, export promotion zones, where you can produce purely for export. But if you want to sell in the local market, you just pay the duty and move on. So in those special economic zones, we have opportunities for processing, but we also have opportunities for you to invest into a manufacturing shed. So if you want to put up sheds, 5,000 square meters, so we have gazetted this in Tonkokundu, right on the sea in Mombasa. You can manufacture and more or less just put it on the ship. So we have a big opportunity for you to invest in infrastructure for industrialization in Mombasa, in Athi River here, in Naivasha, and a few more private areas. The last issue I want to mention is that now we are pushing the issue of industrial parks. The president just about a week ago gave about $5 million to county governments so that each county can start to attempt to put together an aggregation center for produce in that county. And we are going to do this for the next 5 years. So there will be aggregation centers in each county, and then we'll do a regional industrial park where we can add value. And if you don't want to invest in building your own factory and so on, you can actually do small ideas as you test your ideas. All of you are going to be in some way or another invest in the Kenyan economy. So let it not be stories. I want to really encourage you that we are here, proactive, willing to talk, to engage with you so that we can make a difference, not just for Kenya, but in the young lives and of Kenyan youths, many of them that need opportunities to fend for themselves and also to take care of their families. So once again, thank you very much. Welcome to the agro-processing space. We are here for you. Welcome, and we are ready. And I hope that you are ready on your side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, PS, for sharing your views and those opening remarks with us. We'd now like to start the conversation by giving the opportunities to each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves and their companies. So I will start in alphabetical order. So I will start with you, Fabrizio. Fabrizio Cardillo, so alphabetical order for companies. So you're a CEO at AflaZero, whose revolutionary solution targets zero aflatoxin in the world's food. Can you tell us in 1 minute what you're doing?
Yes, thank you very much to be here today, and I'm so glad to see people interested in opportunity in agro-processing here in Kenya, because I'm a life witness that when I came first time 2014 in Kenya, have decided I lost the passport. I don't know how. I lost the passport. I cannot go back, and I remain here. And because I said this is the country that I want to be, and we look at the problems in the value chain, and we see that there was a huge problem, not only in Kenya, really is everywhere in the world, but we appreciate the fact that Kenya government, and here there is a representative, has the courage to face the problem. That is what encourages us. And after is, we are, originally I'm from Italy, and we develop a technology, is 20 years, almost 20 years of research and development, how to remove aflatoxin in post-harvest from maize. And it's something that really affect all the East Africa, but as I say, is all over the world, this problem, in all Africa, in all Europe, everywhere. But because here there was a right environment to invest in research and development, and also I can today, because I think the 1 minute that you give me is already gone, today I can say that we have established the first 2 plants in the world, one in Nairobi, one in Bungoma, very soon will be commissioned, and so we can remove, we can make sure that the food safety, food security maize, the ugali that we eat every day, don't give us cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Yeah. I'm moving now to Dr. Vimal Shah, Chairman at Bitco Africa, East Africa's leading manufacturer of FMCG.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. So a brief about me. I'm born and brought up in Kenya, educated in Kenya. I'm a Kenyan, I'm indigenous African. Origin is Indian. But I've been here all my life, and I think 37 years ago, we actually looked at agro-processing and the agribusiness sector. And that time, my father was into garments, what PS talked about. He was into garments, and we said, let's take it back to cotton and go to the entire cotton value chain. Having seen that whole cotton value chain, we looked at the seed side and the lint side. Lint is what you get your fabrics from. And of course, the seed side was another area. And cut a long story short, we went into the seed area and went the full value chain, right from farming to processing to crushing seeds, getting the oil out of it, making animal feeds, and of course making the edible oils, branded products, fast-moving consumer goods. And today we have operations in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, where we are into the entire farming. In Uganda, we have an oil palm plantation. It's 30,000 acres. We're ramping up another 30,000. That plantation is doing well. It's the first time ever anybody's done that in Eastern Central Africa, because everybody thought it's for the Western Africa that oil palm can grow. And we did that as a proof of concept. It's already done. So the government actually gave us a lot of support there. That was important. You got full government support, and of course they gave us land at $1 in terms of leasing. Not buying, we can't sell the land, but it's for use for oil palm. And it's already running very well, successful project. Now they've given us enough land to say go and ramp up. So we're doing that. In Kenya, we're into the entire value chain, right from farmers. We have 30,000 farmers, we contract them, and we give them offtake contracts. Soya bean, sunflower, oil seeds, we buy all of them, and we give them upfront pricing. Of course, the government competes with us because they all look at maize. And in Kenya, the whole narrative has been maize. Food security means how much maize do we have? Am I right, PS? It's always about how much maize do we have? We are food secure. So we did another example here, and we went into the potato value chain. We had the Dutch government with us on top of that. We went over the potato value chain and did a lot of things. Kenya government put a stop to it. They didn't allow us the seed that was important. That was the one for French fries. They didn't allow it because they said you must have zero, not aflatoxin, but zero whatever. And zero in the world, even in Holland, it doesn't exist. So I'm just saying sometimes the law becomes an ass. And that's a big problem. So now it's sorted out. Now at least it's all done. And I think the pronouncements now that we hear are fantastic. The manifesto is fantastic. The discussion is all about agro-processing. We love it. So I think there's a new change that's coming up, and that's why probably I'm here. But again, I would caution all of you, if you're from EU or whatever, don't go back into those industries. Don't go into the maize and those pyrethrum and all that stuff. Look at new things. There's many new things that are possible. So just a word of advice that don't go back into the rut, because you need to start with who's your customer. In agro-processing, who's your customer, who's your end buyer, and what do they want? Back from there, work out and say, where can I produce it? Because the minute you start saying, I'm going to grow maize, it's a gamble. The maize farmer goes and plants maize. He doesn't know what price he's going to get at the end. And then it's a gamble. Right now, the government's importing duty-free maize, and the farmers are saying we want dump maize. There's a big dichotomy. There's a problem there. I'm just saying that don't new things. There's so many things. The flowers that are coming up, you know, the berries. There's so many things. Herbs. I don't know if you know this, but herbs has become a big thing across. And you can look at that and make it here, export it anywhere else, or even sell it in the local market. So in short, I'm just saying, a lot of potential. About our company, of course, we're in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, but we do everything. We do edible oils, fats, soaps, margarines, detergents, juices. We're looking at the whole fruit value chain. We'd like to go into fruit farming right up to the end so that we actually do the whole thing. We're actually putting up an avocado plantation right now, so we're putting that up in a scientific manner. The only thing is that I'd caution one thing is, do not go into plant and see if it grows. That's the old school. I plant some seeds, let's see if it grows. You wait for 2-3 years and say, it didn't grow, next. You're going to waste your time. Go into smart precision farming. Smart agriculture, where you know, you control. Agriculture is 3 things. Sun, nutrients, and water. Water management is important. Sun, we're on the equator. 2 hours from here, you can cross the equator. It's 12 hours of sunshine all the time. So this place is very suitable, competitive. Number 3, the issue around, am I talking too much?
No, but I'm happy to see that you've already starting the conversation. So it's great because you introduced your company
Sorry
and
about
you
that,
answered
sorry.
my first
I'll stop
question.
here. I could
So
go
I
on
like it. No worries. No, but it's nice to see that you're very passionate about it.
So lastly, I'm just saying lastly, we as a company, as Bitco, as a major program right now, we're looking at all opportunities in every value chain, from end to end. We'd like to go from farm, from the soil right to the frying pan. That's what we do in oils. But we'd like to look at many more. So we're into any value chain that we look at and say, go back to agriculture, the full value chain. So we do soya bean, sunflower, maize. We look at meat, not meat, but wheat. And of course, we do animal feeds also. So we give back to the farm in terms of the milk value chain. So it's a whole circular economy, and there is zero wastage. So when you guys talk about ESG and sustainability, we're in it already. It's a given for us. It's not something that you've got to come and impose on us. We have a clear code of ethics. We don't pay bribes. In fact, even to government, we will not pay bribes. We'll fight for our rights. So I'm just saying it is possible. And a lot of people think in Africa it's not possible. I say it's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. No. So I would like now to move to Peter Dillon. Peter, you are the Vice President and General Manager, Middle East, Africa and India subcontinent at Kerry Group, a leader in global food ingredients, bringing technology, leadership and sustainable growth to the food and beverage industries. So can you please, in 1 minute, try to sum up what you do at Kerry Group?
Mr. Shah has built up momentum, so
I know.
see if I can keep it going. Can you hear me? Thanks for the introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Dillon. I've been based in Nairobi for the last 2 years. I chose to be here as it is the center of my region, but also is one of the best places to live during the COVID period. The Kerry Group is an Irish-based company, started by 5,000 farmers back in the late 70s. And over the years, we've expanded from dairy processing, selling milk and cheese around Ireland, to being a global supplier of food ingredients. Today we're about 8 billion in sales and in about over 120 countries. The tagline that we like to use to explain who we are is we're the brand behind some of the best brands in the world. And for example, Bitco has been one of our best customers here in Kenya. So you won't see our name in the supermarket shelves, or you won't see our name in the advertising on the TV. We supply ingredients that are extracts from fruits, so mango flavor compounds that are used in beverages. We also do a big portfolio of what we call taste modulators that help make great beverages with lower sugar content. We also supply into the meat industry, where we supply natural smoke flavors. And we're also very large in the dairy ingredients, cheese powders and butter powders. In Africa, we invested here a couple of years ago in a small company that was set up by a French couple called, the company was called Afribon. And we have locations here in Kenya, in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Cameroon, Nigeria, and also in South Africa. So we're very excited by the opportunity, and we've chosen Kenya to be our regional hub for East Africa, both because of its a nice place to live, but more importantly because of the infrastructure, because of the quality of the talent here, and also by the, let's call it, forward-thinking regime here is in terms of supporting businesses. So again, thanks for the opportunity to speak here today, and look forward to a good discussion.
Thank you, Peter. I would like now to introduce Tei Mukunya Undo. Tei, you are the co-founder and executive director at Naturalock, who are fighting food waste throughout Africa by preserving fresh produce naturally into tasty, nutritious, and affordable food for all, right at the source.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. But yes, I'm Tei Mukunya Undo, and I'm a co-founder of Naturalock Foods. The other founder is Dutch, so we're half Dutch, half Kenyan. And what we have created in the past this is our third year. We have been able to disrupt the food industry by making an instant food product made from dengu. You know, the only way to understand it is to kind of see what it looks like. And it is a dried stew. And what we do, what you're able to do is just rehydrate it with water for 3 minutes, and it's ready to eat. And so what we're saying is that we're bringing health to the table. This is 55 shillings, Kenyan. And so it is affordable to mwananchi. And so where we are seeing this going, because we're just at the beginning stages of our business, is to get it known, for people to understand that there's something like this. That's the first part of it. But what it is that we can now adopt many ingredients. We can get into the value chains of different segments. So we've started with legumes because they're the hardest to cook. It's so hard to just get dengu on your plate on a daily basis. If you don't have a fridge, if you don't have enough fuel to cook, especially for big groups. And so we are seeing this being a solution for even the ASAL regions where water is so hard to find. It can even be eaten as a snack dry. It tastes like chevra. So we think it's phenomenal because it's touching a special point for the consumer, the local consumer. And what we can do then going forward is to be able to open up the backward linkages, and we're working with CalRO and different organizations where we can have farmer groups grow these crops that feed into our produce. And as we said, because we're looking at post-harvest losses, how can we take what the farmer has and convert it to recipes that can go into these types of products? So we're at the beginning, we're excited for the journey because it's touching on something that hasn't been there before. Thank you.
Very much, Tei. Can I grab one? Thank you. And finally, Nicolas van der Velden. So Nicolas, you're director at Olvea Kenya, a leading French supplier of vegetable and fish oils with over 90 years of experience and know-how in the oils and fats industry, as well as quite a newcomer on the Kenyan market.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm glad to be here today with such such an experienced bunch of panelists with me today. So, as Laure said, we are a fish oil and specialty vegetable oil business company. We are a French company. We here in Kenya we have established recently to produce avocado oil. That was our main focus here, to produce, crush avocado oil that we would later refine in our refinery in France. We are an EPZ company based in Athi River. We pretty much are into that agro-processing global value chain, and we also have some ideas for expanding into macadamia oil as well soon. And well, I won't take too much time, but we are glad to have invest in Kenya. And so far, for us, our journey has been quite interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you to the 5 of you. And now I'm very happy to hand over to Jane so we can start the conversation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, panelists. Now, Nicolas, you were the last one in that session. So I'd like to give you the first opportunity to answer just one question. Why Kenya? Why did you choose to come here? What is the potential of the investment in agro-processing here from your perspective?
Well, thanks for the question. So first, Kenya for us, being a French company, was not an obvious choice. To be honest, we are more tempted to look into francophone countries. That's what we have been doing before. We have units, 2 units in Morocco, 1 unit in Mauritania, and another one in Burkina Faso. So it was not a natural choice per se, but for many business reasons, it didn't make sense to go in francophone countries. So now, once we have said that, why Kenya? So again, our primary focus was and still is crude avocado oil production, and we looked at different countries, the neighboring countries actually in neighboring countries of Kenya. So we looked into Ethiopia, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania. We even looked at Latin American options before setting up in Kenya. But despite an existing competition in Kenya and a space that was somehow already taken, we still thought Kenya was the best fit for us because of, I'd say, 5 key reasons. The first one was for us the availability of raw material. When we looked at the different parameters for us to set up, it was the most important thing, and we found in Kenya a true well-structured value chain on avocado that is allowing us to source the enough volumes for avocado. The second reason is the fact that Kenya has very good infrastructure. That's very important for us. Well, access to the port, there is, well, we won't need to talk that much about this one, but also the road network. The quality of the road network is quite important in our choice, because we need to source fruits during rainy seasons, and without those quality roads, it would have been an issue to get them on time, and hence disturbing potentially our operations. Third reason is actually the fact that Kenya is the hub for East Africa. So you can find pretty much what you need to set up a business and to actually run it in terms of, let's say, business solutions, equipments, machines. You can find whatever you want here. And if you don't have the right tools, you can always find an agent or someone else who would be willing and ready to supply you. So this is quite important. Fourth reason is the fact that for us as a French company, we didn't face any barrier language, and unfortunately, maybe most of our colleagues in France are not so versant in, well, they are okay in English, but going Kiswahili would have been another step, I'd say. And the last reason was actually the fact that we could be in Kenya an EPZ company, and the PS here highlighted the benefit of it, and so for us that was really important when choosing Kenya.
Thank you very much. Now, going to Peter, next one in line. I pose the same question to you. Why Kenya? You're an international company. You are in, different geographies. What is the specific opportunity that attracted you to Kenya?
So in addition to what my colleague just mentioned, there were two things that I think made the decision easy for us. One, we're in the food processing ingredient side of the business, which relies a lot on food science. And what we found in Kenya was there was a good, rich network of smart, ambitious people with training in the sciences. And our business and the development of the agro-processing business is very much dependent on taking that, let's say, wealth of knowledge and fast-tracking it in terms of building experience. So if you look at, say, Ireland, when we started as a company in the 70s, we were very much the same, not much experience. Today we have 30, 40 years of experience. Okay, so we feel like the journey that we went on in Ireland, that could be replicated here and bring success not only to our company, but also build a very strong network of agro-processing in the Kenyan market. I think the second factor, which is quite important in working in the African market for a foreign company, is being able to move currencies out fairly easily. So I would say Kenya, relatively speaking, is quite stable economically, even though there's been some devaluation this year. But in general, it's quite easy to get paid and transfer profits into, let's say, euros. So in addition to infrastructure, in addition to the English language, and I'd say the other thing is when our original CEO came to visit Kenya, he was Irish, and he had visited a couple of other countries in Africa where he didn't like the spicy food, so he was quite impressed with the nature of the Kenyan food, which was kind of bland like the Irish food, so that was a connection.
Thank you very much. Bwana Kadilo. You're bringing a new technology into this country. And as someone said, when we I think it was the PS, when we speak food security, we speak maize, really. And you've come up with this technology. And just give us an idea as to why. What interested you in looking at this specific area, and what kind of challenges do you anticipate as you? I know you haven't quite launched the program, but as you go into the launch of that program, what kind of challenges are you experiencing?
Thank you very much for this question. Yes, our technology is very innovative in technology, and we have, as a Flat Zero, and as personally, we have a little experience in general in Africa. We are dealing with African countries since 1988, and West Africa especially. And when we, in 2019, we've been awarded by United Nations the best solution in the agro-processing worldwide, fighting and decontaminating aflatoxin in maize, but also in other product, nuts and other product. We naturally, we approach the countries that we know quite well, that is in West Africa. And with our surprise, everybody, they said that they don't have the problem. And but they cannot export to Europe, they cannot export to another place because there is aflatoxin. But eating locally, there is no problem. They can eat without any problem. So, okay, fine and good. When I came in Kenya and I proposed the same solution, really the government was welcoming us. They know there was a problem and they're ready to face the problem with all the consequence, because if facing a problem, you need to have courage, especially politically. And what that one has encouraged us to go deep and deeper in finding, investing in research, investing in so many prototypes, so many things, till we arrived up to 95, I don't want to say 98, we also reached 98%, but let me say 95% of the contamination in aflatoxin. I don't know if you people know, I think some of you know that aflatoxin is a really deep problem, give cancer, many people died, so many people, so many companies few years ago, they got closed down for unga, for flour, because it's contaminated. And not only that, because it's sold, the contaminated one is sold for chicken, is sold for cows, so you can find aflatoxin milk and the eggs. That is the major problem. And what, answering to the question of Jane, what would give us the courage to go ahead with Kenya is the favorable environment, human infrastructure, and willing to face the problem. And we say, okay, let us do it together. We will find the solution. And that's where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabrizio. Now, allow me to come back to you, Nicholas. As a foreign investor in Kenya, give us, your journey. How has the journey been? Where have you found it easy to go along, and where have you found hurdles in your way?
Okay, yes, thank you for that question. So, once we have selected Kenya as our destination country, I'd say first that we went through a classical entrepreneurial journey to set up a business. So we just started with let's say the classic steps. First, incorporating the company, finding a building, hiring a team, making some modification to our building. After that, we imported some machines, purchased locally most of them, and eventually we've been able to achieve a startup in 9 months. So that's the classic ones. Now, what has been challenging for us, I'd say first a bit long though, the administration process to get to the export processing zone status. I think that's due to the fact that it's a particular status for which you have to comply with a number of criteria. This, to be honest, and I'm maybe too young, and it has frustrated me a bit, but that was okay. All in all, in 9 months, we managed to start. So that's the first time. Then that's the first thing. Then we can say logistics went rather well as well, and for companies who would think of coming in Kenya and establishing themselves. Those two things, at least administrations, everything to deal with logistics, I would recommend really to work with local Kenyan companies that are very professional and for which you would, we can just delegate that part and that would be very easy. Now, another challenging part, but for which we have been successful is also, of course, hiring the right team. And it has been said, you said it, there is here a great pool of talent in Kenya, people, young, bright, ambitious minds. And so I've been lucky to build a team that is now supporting the growth of the company. And without them, I would have never been able to achieve even a fraction of what we did. And I've been lucky to be successful in that. And now the going, let's say, forward, now the challenges that we have, very much more on our core business. It's really for us to secure enough volumes of raw materials, so avocado, to sustain our growth plan, because we want to maybe double, triple in size in the coming years, and we hope that we'll have enough avocado to do so. So that's pretty much what are our key challenges. But all in all, I'd say it has been a successful journey, and we are confident to continue invest in Kenya for the coming years.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Now, let me allow Laura to also step in.
Vimal and Shah, as we close this first part of the conversation on the business environment. So Vimal, you've been in business for quite a while now. Can you please just share your feedback on what you've just heard about the business environment from those European investors, and maybe also about the evolution of the agro-processing sector in Kenya? So quite briefly, but according to you, what were the main successes and what are the main areas for improvement?
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for the opportunity. I think let's look at it from two things. One is the demand side and the supply side. We have two issues, and I think this is where agro-processing and stuff like that can come in. But if you talk about the admin, we have been getting, and I tell you, I was the chairman of KAM, I was chairman of KEPSA, I was chairman of East African Business Council. And I tell you what happens. We get a lot of investors coming in. And in the past, we've been just running them around, going from office to office, and we were silos. Every ministry was a silo. Sorry, I'm talking about government now. Every ministry was a silo, and you would run around from this ministry to that ministry to that ministry, and trying to get approvals as what our friend there is talking about. And that was a big issue, right? I think a lot of these things have been streamlined, but there's a lot of room for improvement. This is directly to you, Bwana PS. You need a one-stop shop that solves everything in one shot, number one. Number two, because the bureaucracy for our investor, young man who's energetic, who's really knowing what he wants to do, we should be much more faster. So I think that's area for improvement. However, having said that, I think the current administration is now saying we want to fast-track everything, we want to go digital, we want to do a lot more there. I just hope it happens, because we want to get out of NATO. NATO means no action, talk only, right? Because there's been a lot of talk, but actions are different. And I think this is the time right now, with the new administration, with everybody else, they've got an energy that's amazing, and get it done. We can't sit in the past, and I think that's important, number one. Number two, having said that, the e-citizen platform in Kenya works very well. So there's an e-citizen where you can do a lot of corporate and all that stuff. And what you need is, like was talked about, you've got a good professional team who runs it off, and it can be done quickly. Agriculture, and I say this openly, without any worry. Agriculture had been murdered in Kenya 10 years ago. And it wasn't really a priority. It was just more about plant something and do something. Now, in the new manifesto, it's already a priority area. I think that's an important point. First and foremost, the comments have been there that we want agri-processing and whatever. However, this will need a lot of action from the government, from people, to actually take decisions to make it happen. Which, again, it's too young. I think it's only 6 months. We will get to know if it happens or not. The actions need to be congruent with the manifesto. That's important, right? Number one. Number two, Kenya's got a fantastic, I think if Kerry Group is here, it's because there is manufacturing happening in Kenya. The government's now denying there's no manufacturing in Kenya. I think that's wrong. First and foremost, there is manufacturing happening in Kenya. There is a lot of value added happening here, right through the value chains. I think that's important to say that, acknowledge it. I would advise the PS and the ministers, please visit the factories, go and see what each one of them is doing and what are their pain problems. That way we'll identify those problems of existing industries of what's happening. That's important. So I think that's important to get that clear off, because the pain points that he has are important to say, let's make sure that nobody else has that again. So if the new people are coming in, they should not have that same problem. I think that's one way of solving it. But again, your question is about admin and my experience. I think it's important to have local ground knowledge, because if you come in as a foreigner and say, I want to do it all on my own, it's going to be difficult. You need to have some local contact, some local professional firm, or whoever, or get a partner, right? And I think this is the era now. I'm a believer in PPPP, right? People, public, private partnerships, where the roles are very clear. By people, we mean involving the farmers. By public, we mean the public sector, and business being in business, with due respect. Government's role is a facilitator, to facilitate the entire business and say, I make it better for you, as whether it's a Kenyan, whether it's a foreigner, whoever. Actually, it doesn't matter. Investor is investor, whether it's local or foreigner, doesn't matter. I think the issue is, let's make it conducive for you. So that's where government's role is clear, facilitator to hasten the velocity and the speed of action. So people, public, private. Private sector's role is to execute on the ground, get things moving, get the capital, get the human capital, get the customer base, do the business, do the transactions. And we're open. It could be for the local market, it could be for exports, it could be for whatever. Wherever your customer is and you get the value add. I think that's key. Second, lastly, is it's a partnership. When I say partnerships, we've got to remove the silos. In agribusiness, we say we need a silo for everything. But here we've got to cut the silos and say, fine, let's talk it together. My friend has got an avocado plant. He says the challenge right now is getting the supplies of enough avocado, right? I'm doing a avocado plantation, right? So I will have the supply. But I'll sit there as a silo and say, no, I've got to get this. Now he's sitting there waiting for it. Is there a room for partnership? That's what I'm talking about. Smart partnerships where we say, fine, now for your requirement, whatever you need, tell us and we'll do it. So that's the partnership I'm talking about. And therefore, all of you are becoming de-risked. Because of perception around agribusiness and agro, whenever I talk to people, whenever I talk to banker, I hope is there a banker in the room? Is there a bank? You're a banker. Sorry, Keval, I'll talk about you. As a banker, they look at risk and say, agriculture too risky, I don't want to stake my name on it. Why? The sun could fail, the water could fail, this could fail, pests could come in. And the way they look at risk is just, a banker's perspective, right? But ask a farmer, ask a person who's doing plantations. Jane knows about flowers here. We do it scientifically and we de-risk the model. And that's what I'm saying. This is where the new model needs to come in. It can be done. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, I'm asking something else. But the admin right now is good. The question is, our government is still forming itself. We're still appointing people. We really don't know who's who. And then there'll probably be a learning curve of 1 year, 2 years. I think the warning sign here is we should not allow any corruption to come in. Because that's called rent seeking, to say, fine, go and seek a favor, get something done, and really, we should resist that. It's important. Lastly, I want to say that I think the manifesto is perfect. The vocal, the tonality, the way they talk about it, it's really pushing to agribusiness, so the opportunity can remain in a big way. I'll say my last statement. We have been potential for the last 55 years, since independence. We could remain potential for another 50 years too. We'll remain potential unless we do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the sake of time, because the slot we've been allocated is quite short to cover such a big topic, I would like to move to the second part of our conversation, which is the impact of your companies on both farmers, food security, job creation, and the question related to sourcing. So Tay, I would like to start with you on that. So as we said previously, Natural Lock is committed to fight food waste in Africa by preserving fresh produce naturally into tasty and affordable foods at the source. So you want to provide a long-term solution also. And we know that sometimes the success of many Kenyan and African enterprise depend on the scalability of the model and whether it can expand also within the regional market and we hope within the continental market. So how scalable is your solution and your model?
Thank you for the question, and it's really interesting to hear about what the panelists are saying because it resonates. And as we grow, we're going to get there, and we hope that we will learn from what is happening. And scalability is key for any business, I think, and you've got to put in the sustainability aspects of it so that it can be scalable. But taking NatureLock and how we have structured ourselves, we are food drying. We're a food drying company. And drying is well known across the African region. It's known across the world. And what we do, the uniqueness of the technology that we use in drying is potentially passable so that we can create a drying foods in different places because it's just about the recipe. So when you create the recipe and apply how we do the drying, then it is scalable in that sense. The other scalability aspect is that we keep it simple. We take what is available and what would go to waste. So we have pockets of in the whole world, actually. So of being able to take what's on the healthy product. So berries, if they are too difficult to grow and because they are available and there's so and it is possible to do that easily. And a country in like let's say Nigeria and say what's going to waste for you? Put up the same process. What do people like to eat? Let's put more chili in and develop those solutions. And then because we have then it is a mass market product. It also becomes across the board. Touching on points for healthy, for that first, but we are creating a healthy base. And that is also one thing that we all want to see in our eating habits. We want to create healthy, nutritious, and affordable foods. So that is how we look at scalability from that angle. And we see it happening because also the human resource, as we've heard and it's mentioned, they are really good, talented people in Africa. Not just in Kenya, but across Africa. And we're finding them and they're willing and they're able to learn and they're able to as well. So gone is the Africa or the Kenya that you'd really doubt if I can trust this person. You can. They're very nice, trustworthy people. And we're going somewhere. And even with the government and the support, you're finding pockets of people who are with you and walking the journey with you, especially for a new business. And we're finding that we are getting good people holding our hand as we go along. So that's also part of it. And it's refreshing. Doing business in Kenya is good.
Thank you, Tay.
It's time to look at the impact that your activities are having on your suppliers, the farmers, the impact you're having on the issue of food security and job creation, and of course, sourcing. And Peter, your company is committed to sustainable food processing using local ingredients. Can you please explain your sourcing process? And is it possible to source locally, also considering the high impact of, say, the climate change that especially the one we're going through now, over the last 3 years has been quite difficult for this country?
Easy question. So let me split it into two. So point number one in terms of sustainability, you need to have a business that is sustainable. And then point two, you need to make sure that within the value chain, inputs, outputs, footprint, it is such that it will be sustainable in terms of not damaging the environment and synchronous with the overall supply chain. So just some small examples. So we have a small business here in Kenya. We look to all of East Africa and we say, how can we build a business here that is scalable across many countries in Africa? As I mentioned earlier, we're in the business of taking raw ingredients and adding value to make a consumer product that consumers will buy. In order for us to do scientists who can, in our case, create flavors using extracts from fruits, and we need beverage application people to turn it into a great drink, and we need technical sales people to work with our partners so that the product is processed properly and ends up on the shelf, high quality and consistently produced at a high quality level. So in order for us to do that, getting food science graduates, training them up, having a lot of links between people here and people in countries where there's a lot more experience, and moving people back and forth is a very important part of building that sustainable business. And even to the point where you need people who are graduating here in Kenya to aspire to careers like that. And the Irish ambassador is here, and they sponsor a very interesting program, which is the Irish Kenya Young Scientists competition, where you take kids from secondary school and you give them a chance, you mentor them to put forward a science project, and as part of the winners, they get a chance to travel to Ireland and see food processing, see technical labs, see what is possible in this industry. And recently we had a group that came to our headquarters in Ireland, and at the end of it they said, where can I start to work? So having that exposure builds a demand which provides sustainability. Now, when it comes to raw materials, so mango is one of our inputs, and we now are currently working with Concern to build a sustainable production of mango in the Tana Valley River. So more of the profits will stay with the farmers. The farmers will build a, Mr. Shah mentioned, precision farming methodology so that they're not vulnerable to floods and drought. Now, I would say we're at the very beginning stage of this, and we as a company and globally are waking up to the fact that we're totally dependent on the land, the sun, the water, and the energy to grow stuff. And that's a small step in that program, but I think forums like this will continue to build opportunities for good partnerships to build those kind of sustainable models.
Thank you very much. Laura?
I would like to come back to you because you mentioned the opportunity agro-processing represent for job creation, and you also mentioned as well as job creation for youth and women also in particular. And you mentioned that now the right skills are available in on the kind of win-win partnerships and smart partnerships that could be implemented with the in terms of training or to you, what would be feasible to help develop the sector?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I'd say one of the specialities we like or we have been able to do in our business is to hire women, especially like majority, and we have a creche there, and they can bring their babies. I mean, I have been an entrepreneur forever, and I remember my first son when I was starting business, and he was just there as I'm delivering to, that time it was Nakumat. And it was hard, and it was just difficult, but carrying a baby along, and I was running a business, I didn't find that. So we bring in especially women who, have babies, little babies, come and take care of your child as you work. And I'm telling you, it works wonders because the product is so well loved, because the atmosphere and the environment is great. So I'd really first encourage all factories to have a creche. I think it's not that expensive and it's worth it. But on the other hand, we're talking with like Hansa University and looking at different universities, ideally because we are also part Dutch, to look at what we can do to create exchange programs and see what we can do now digitally. It's really relevant, and we can do it much easier to come up with partnerships or ways to improve our, let's say, social media. There's areas in our business that we'd say, let's identify this and work with students across the board, and we create exchange programs. So we're finding that they come in and work with us, and then our staff also have programs that are out there that are very relevant, and we encourage them to go and learn and be part of these programs. I also subscribe to some of these programs that are really good for like leadership. So there's a lot happening. And if we look for them, we'll find them. And there's a lot of initiatives also with the Dutch government. We have a lot going with the Embassy of the Netherlands, and they always give us opportunities that we take, and we're happy with them. So that kind of support works for us as well.
Thank you. One comment?
Can I I just add one more thing. Tay, if you want partnerships with the Europeans in every 27 countries, find one agent to sell your product there and export it to them. Your scalability will be straight away up. It's a partnership.
Thank you for the break. Fabrizio, I know you already talked about food security and food safety, and I know that you're still at the beginning of implementing the project, but what impact do you expect, particularly in a key value chain like the grains in this country?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this question. From ourselves, the impact that we want to give is not our impact. We want to contribute together with Kenya to give a very big impact. Okay. We want to give together with Kenya a very big impact to not only Kenya, together with Kenya in all Africa and even more. I will explain in details. The major impact that we are looking at is, as we mentioned before, food security. In the last years, in different millions of dollars to is possible. Farmers and you burn, and you spend millions of dollars to burn maize. It's practically unacceptable. Secondly, with this one, we are not going to burn the maize again. We are going to decontaminate maize, not only of the different aflatoxin, because aflatoxin, they are a toxin word. They are the only naturally cancer. And the people, it's not juju, it's aflatoxin. Is the truth, and or the milk or the eggs. Now that is the first impact. Directly reducing the mortality of people, quality of the food. Contaminated is realistically. I don't want to mention that they are selling, they're importing. This is not the place to mention. But when they bring the contaminated maize, the price definitely is lower. Is lower, and they are destructing the international, the regional trade. Now, because they know that is lower price, they buy it for animal feed and they mix with other things. Now, also another big impact is to do a fair trade. That also the maize can be exported. I don't want to say internationally, the local maize, but at least the East Africa region can be regulated and have a proper production of. I mention maize because now the project is on maize, but our equipment, our plant is ozone-based. The treatment is ozone-based, can also treat rice, because nobody's talking about rice, but there is a big problem on rice, very big one. It can treat pili pepper, the dried one, and the nuts, like in Nigeria. We mentioned many times Nigeria today. In Nigeria, is not exported, before was the biggest exporter of peanut in the world. Now they cannot export even one peanut because it's food of aflatoxin. They cannot export beans because it's aflatoxin. So aflatoxin is affecting a lot of product. And that's with our innovation, the major effect is increasing the profitability of the agriculture, the farmers, food security, food safety, and international trade and health. I think is enough, because more than that, I don't know. But this one is only with the collaboration of the government, because in the world there is not even regulation yet that through Kenya, just the last one, I'm part of an international organization based in Geneva on mycotoxin. And there is PACA, there is Bill Gates Foundation, but so many other organizations that are in this group. and I'm part of the one in Geneva. And I propose, the CEO, my friend, is a top scientist in mycotoxins in the world, that we will do a center of excellence here in Nairobi. I'm already discussing, concluding with the biggest university in Kenya, based in Nairobi, and we are going to do a center of excellence with all, because there is no need to research and develop abroad, where they don't face the problem. We decided to do the research and development here, and we are looking also land, the way we are going to produce the equipment here. So we produce the plants. Now we are producing it in Italy, but very soon, the next one, we are going to produce it here in East Africa to serve in Kenya, to serve East Africa, and also other part of the world. So research and development will be done here, and production of the plant will be done here as well.
Fabrizio, it's very difficult to stop you when you speak about this subject. You're very passionate about it. I understand that if we are able to save only 10% of our maize, we would not need to import even 1 grain. Back to you, Laura.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we are already coming to an end of this conversation, although we could listen for you for hours. So my last question would be for you, Dr. Shah. So I was recently reading an interview that you gave to a magazine, and you mentioned that you believed in being mad. So I was like, wow, interesting statements. But then today I remember that as you're quite good with you meant make a difference. So what would be your message, your final message, the conclusion to this panel discussion to local and regional players in the agro-processing space, so they can become mad as well and have a real impact on the development of the sector?
Thank you very much. I think I need to contextualize it. Mad does not mean brain dead. I'm just talking about making a difference, right? Making a positive difference. I think ordinary people don't make a difference, because if they're not mad, they're not going to make a big change. They're going to comply, and that's the difference. Having said that, in your what could because we're on the equator, so you need to know agro-processing, what really can grow here. We're on the equator, therefore mangoes, avocados, tree crops like that do very well. In those areas. So I'm just saying, because I'm from Europe, I just do whatever I'm doing here and start doing it in Kenya. No. Find out the agroclimatic zones, number one. Number two, soil health. For agro-processing, soil health is very soil, where am I planting, location is important. We have the lowlands and we have the high, which is sea level. It goes right up to the highlands in Rift Valley. Altitude in agriculture makes a big difference. That's scientific, because you just start saying, and you plant a seed and say it's not growing. And our government hasn't done this. Soil health, they should have said this is what's exists in a big way. The potential exists because the demand supply. 51 million today, 50 million people in Kenya today. By 20, that's another 15 million people. So I'm just saying that's Kenya. Now, we're talking about Africa being. By 2050, we expect 2.5 billion if the production rates. Of course, they say as you grow better and bigger, your production goes down. That's a separate issue. But I think the issue is there's a dividend. The population is growing. food, they will need clothing, they will need shelter, they'll need all that. So demand side, we have a fantastic demand side equation where the demand is there. The key question for opportunities is, can I supply? Can I make sure that I get into that supply chain? Start small, aim big, but get it done. Now, if we have any surplus here, and if we think that we're doing very well, we could export it. I mean, Europe is open for exports. I hope the EPAs are agreed. I think today I heard that the EPAs will be finalized so that the economic part. I think Europe is trying to get access duty-free at no duties. So I think that's. Having said that, the issue second to none are people is growing much more faster in service, right? Because it's not because manufacturing is not growing. Manufacturing is in the GDP factor. GDP manufacturing has gone from 10%, 11% now to 7%. But it could go lower if we don't make sure it exists. The factors are there. Services also. If you talk about agribusiness, the services in agribusiness. Digitalization. Let's talk about Digitech. Digitech in agriculture. Very serious possibilities. So there are many, many avenues for engaging. It's not just farming and production and all that stuff. There's a lot more that could be done. So I'm just saying, to cut my long story short, there is potential. Kenya is open for business. Like has been said, you can bring in your foreign investment. You can be a 100% owned company, not a problem. You could have a partnership locally. You can bring in your money. You can take out whenever you want to online. So I'm just saying, that's the liberal environment we have. Environment, you can either see opportunity or you see doom. I say one more thing. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a businessman, forget the politics. Politics does not make sense anymore. It's about looking at the customer, looking at the production, and the politics will play itself. They have their role to play. The politicians will play their role. Do not get worried about that because a lot of people say, oh, political risk is too high.
Vimal.
I'll finish. I don't see political risk, therefore you can insure it too. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's a very difficult gentleman to stop. And I think, Lore, we have basically covered a lot of the issues that we wanted to discuss with the panelists, including some of the best practices and messages for investors. And I think if we have a little bit of time, maybe we can invite one or two questions.
No, unfortunately, I think, Jane, we are
audience.
running out of time. But I would strongly encourage you to participate in the cocktail reception that will happen in a few minutes, so you can engage with the panelists and you can stay a little bit longer. But I would like to offer you, dear PS, to say in a few minutes, I know it's not easy, a few closing remarks and share your views on what you've heard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will be very brief. First of all, let me say that, again, I remain grateful for your participation in these processes. As government, we know that the money that you may want, the money, you really want it to, but for your family and also for future generations. Where we sit as government is the role of a referee. In front here are people that are practicing. My role will be, as Fimal said, to learn as much as possible from their experiences so that I make your journey easier. So as your Principal Secretary for Industry, I would say that we have actually established a one-stop processing for all this called Kenya Invest. If you Google it, you can do a lot of things online. So we have Kenya Invest, which is a one-stop place for you to do a lot of the things, register your company, do your PIN, and all that. But personally, I have enough people in my office to hold your hand. So I want to give you a hand of friendship to say, if you make a decision that you want to invest in Kenya, I will share my contacts. And even things that may not fall in my docket, I'll hold your hand into those places until you are set up. So I don't want so I don't want you to take 9 months. At least 3 months, we should be done. So I'll be willing to hold your hand so that we can move forward. One of the things that Fimal was born here. You can pay all these people in 2 seconds, different amounts. I go on my phone, online, and as you're aware, that was a payment fund that is supporting farmers. The farmers now go online, they borrow one, they pay when they want. So you self-service, I don't think many people have reached there, and the limits are going up. So a farmer could borrow from there. The interest, I see there was a lot of predatory lending. Farmers were being a bit people is here. Biotechnology, if you want to test something, livestock, we have the International Livestock Research Center here, we have National Biosafety, and we have the best quality assurance mechanism. We have the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Institutions for your products. So, and we have standards for your products, and if your standard is not there, it will be developed. So we have a quality assurance for your products, and we have standards that each of those products can meet. Once you want to establish yourself, we'll link you up there so that you will be able to move. And a growing middle income group. We have a very, very dynamic group here. I always tell people over Christmas, I try to go anywhere near Masai Mara. To Mombasa, you will not get a bed. So you have a very, very serious growing to consume your products. And they are able. Max, I again welcome you. I will hold your hand. We shall work together. We shall succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, PS. And I hope you are ready to hold many hands because for sure. So thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. A huge thank you to my co-moderator, Jane, for working with me on this session. Thank you to our panelists, Tay, Vimal, Fabrizio, Peter, and Nicolas for joining us on this very diverse and rich panel. And thanks to all of you for attending our conversation. We hope that you made the most of this first day of the forum, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.